Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we're going to learn the last strategy for multiplication. So in 4th grade you learned the area model, which we were just reviewed. In our last lesson you learned the partial product method, and tonight's lesson is the standard algorithm. The standard algorithm is probably how your parents multiply. Now the other two methods are great and they will continue to work. But in math, we talk a lot about a word called efficient. Efficient means to do it correctly, but also to do it the fastest way. So the standard algorithm at first might not seem the fastest, but when you look at the work that it takes, it has the least amount of writing and work. So when you get fast or good at it, it will be the fastest method. So our goal is that today we're just going to multiply using the standard, and I apologize, that should say algorithm. An algorithm is just steps that you follow to solve a mathematical equation. So our vocab is the same. We just need to be masters right now at knowing that the two numbers I multiply together are called my factors, and my answer is called my product. And then we still have that same vocab word, partial. So partial just means part of. Now in the other two methods, you had a lot of partial products. You had sometimes 4 or 6 to add. You're going to see in this method, you're going to have about 2 partial products. Okay, quick reminder in the notes, just what does 48 really mean? Well, 48 really means you have 40 plus 8. 326 means you have 300 plus 20 plus 6. And 819 means I have 800 plus 10 plus 9. Okay, our steps tonight are going to look very similar to last night, but we're going to attack them a little differently. So we're still going to write the longer factor on top, but it's going to be on top of the smaller factor, or maybe a better word for that would be the shorter factor. So we're going to write the longer factor on top of the shorter factor, and we're going to be sure to line up the last place value and all the digits. It's going to be really crucial that you're really neat and your work is all lined up. Okay, step 2 is we're going to multiply each digit from one factor with each digit from the other factor. That step sounds similar to last night's, but here's something new. You're going to be sure to carry. So this one we haven't done yet. So when I say carry, it's going to be similar to like how you carry an addition, okay? And then we're going to add the partial products, but you're going to have less partial products in this using this method. Okay, so what does this actually look like? So here's my first problem. Okay, my first problem is, let's see, 54 times 28. Okay, so let's look at my steps again. I'm going to first write the longer factor on top of the smaller or shorter factor. Well, they're both the same length. So when they're both the same length, we normally write the larger one. So I'm going to put 54 on top of 28. Now notice my last place values lined up and all my place values are lined up. Look how neat that is. I could draw straight lines down. I know it seems picky, but that's really going to help you later. Okay, step 2 is I'm going to multiply each digit from one factor to each digit from the other factor. Okay, so just like we did in the partial product, I'm always going to start here. Okay, but it's going to be a little different because now I have this be sure to carry part. So I'm going to say 8 times 4. Well, 8 times 4 is 32, but instead of writing the 32, I'm going to put the 2 and I'm going to carry my 3. So I wrote 32. So I went to my 4. And now I'm going to go to my 5. So 8 times 5 is 40, plus my 3 is 43. Okay, Now when I'm done with this 8, I've gone here and I've gone here, I'm going to go to the next digit, just like I did in the last lesson. I like to cross those off so I don't get confused. Okay, so now that I finished my 8, I'm going to my 2. Okay, now here's something though. Because I'm going to be multiplying with my 2, this is where it gets a little tricky. I'm going to first need to put a placeholder. A placeholder means when I multiplied with the 8, my first answer could go below the 8. But now that I multiply with the 2, my answer needs to go beneath the 2. So I have 2 times 4 is 8. And because I was multiplying with the 2, the answer has to go under the 2. So what we call a placeholder is we kind of fill this with an extra 0. So I have 2 times 4 is 8, and I put it under the number I'm multiplying with. 2 times 5 is 10. So I could put a 0, but there's nothing to carry my 1 to, so I just write 10. Okay, now I've done this digit, I've done this digit, so I'm done. So I get 2. 3 plus 8 is 11, so 1 and 1. I get 5, and I get 1. So my answer is 1,512. Now, I already did this ahead of time, but I want you to look at what that problem looks like using a different method. So using a different method, look at how I did that. So if I would have used the 4th grade area model method, I still would have got 1,512. The difference is what you're doing is you're combining some work. So when I had 1,080 here, look, I also had 1,080 in the area model. But in here I combined it. And here I had 432. I had 400 and a 32 in here, but I had separated it. So in this one, I just kind of combined them. I also did it in the last night's method, and it's kind of the same. If you notice, here I had 432, and here I did 2. But in this method, I kind of am just combining the work. And here I had 1,080, and then here I did as well. But this time I'm just writing less. So the reason that this one's more efficient is because when you get better at it, if you notice, there's a lot less writing involved. Okay, let me try another one. Okay, this one is 317 times 63. Okay, so my steps say I'm going to write the longer one on top. And notice my last place values lined up, and then the other ones are lined up. So you don't line up the front, you line up the last place value. Okay, now I'm going to multiply each digit from one factor to each digit from the other factor. And I'm going to be sure to carry. Okay, I always start here. So I have 3 times 7 is 21. I'm going to put a 1 and carry my 2. 3 times 1, and notice where I go next. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5, and there's nothing to carry. 3 times 3 is 9. So I went to each one. I'm going to cross that off because I'm done with it. Okay, now I'm going to go to my next digit. Now, when I used the 3, my answer went under the 3. Now when I use the 5, the 6, my answer has to go under the 6. So 6 times 7 is 42. So I'm going to put my 2 under the number I'm multiplying with. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 4 is 10. So I can put a 0. And I was just here, so I'm going to go here next. I'm going to carry my 1 there. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 1 is 19. And this empty spot, we fill it with what we call a placeholder. So I have 1, 5 plus 2 is 7, 9 plus 0 is 9, I have 19,971. Okay, I worked this one out ahead of time too. And I want to show you what it would have looked like in 4th grade. So in 4th grade, we just broke it down a lot more. So in 4th grade, this is how you would have attacked this. Now these numbers still are going to match up. If I would add 18,000 plus 600 plus 420, guess what I'm going to get? Right here, 1,920. They're the same. But in 4th grade, we just broke it out into 3, and now we combined them. And then here, if I add 900 plus 30 plus 21, I'm going to end up with 951. So what we're doing in 5th grade is we're taking some of the steps and combining them, kind of to make the work a little bit faster, or that word efficient. And again, the other method I showed you, what it does is it breaks these up a lot more. So 21 plus 30 plus 900 equals 951. And then these last 3, if I add them up, will equal this. So here in the new method, I just kind of squish 3 steps into one. Okay, so this is why we call this the efficient method. Okay, now this is also a method though that you don't expect to master right away. All right, so let's try some now. Now that you've seen me do 2, okay, let's grab our pen and join me in this one. So my first problem says 42 times 31. Okay, so I'm going to set up the longer one on top. Well, since they're both the same length, let's just set up the greater value on top. Okay, now we're ready to actually do the multiplying. And remember, I always start here. So I have 1 times 2 is 2. And since I'm multiplying with this one, the answer can go under it. 1 times 4 is 4. Okay, now when I use this digit 1 for all the other digits. So now I go to my 3. Remember, when I multiply with the 3, the answer has to go under the 3. So now I have 3 times 2 is 6. And 3 times 4 is 12. And this empty space we can fill in with a placeholder. So I'm getting 2, 4 plus 6 is 10. 1 plus 2 is 3. I'm getting 1,302. Okay, I already did this one, which I don't want you to do, but I just want you to see what it would look like if you were doing it the 4th grade method. So in 4th grade, you were taught the area model. Notice how here I had a 42, and in 4th grade you had a 40 and a 2. So those would add up to give me that 42. And here we had a 1,260. Here you had a 1,200, and then you had a 60. So here I took those steps and combined them. But when I added them, I got the same thing. Now in our last lesson, the same idea. All we did is we broke it up farther. So here's this 2 plus 40, which equals 42. And here's this 60 and 1,200, which equals 1,260. So we're just taking our work and kind of condensing it into a more efficient, quick way. Okay, let's try another one. This one's a little more challenging because it's going to be a 3-digit by a 2-digit. Okay, so we have 231 times 25. Notice how we set it up, that we lined up our last place value. Okay, now I'm ready to start my step 2 of multiplying, and I always start here. So 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 3 is 15, so I put a 5, and I have to carry the 1. So I was just at the 3. 5 times 3 is 15, so my next spot's here. So 5 times 2 is 10 plus 11. And there's nowhere to carry it, so I just write an 11. Okay, I'm going to cross that off so I don't let it confuse me. Now, since I'm finished with the 5, I go to the 2, and my answer is going under the 2. So 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. And then this empty space, we put what we call a placeholder. So now I'm done, and I'm going to add them for step 3. So I get 5, 7, 7, 5. So 5,775. Now look at that work compared to in 4th grade, how much I would have had to do for the area model. Kind of compare those. So do you see how this, once you get good at it, it's going to be so much more efficient? And then when we did the partial product, look at all the work I did. And this one's going to be our efficient method. So efficient, again, means correct, but just a lot quicker. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I don't expect you to master this right away. This is something that usually takes a long time to master. But give it a try. Give it a try, because eventually you'll be happy if you learn this as opposed to the other methods that just are a lot more work. Okay, you have 2 problems tonight, and then make sure you rate how well you understand this. Have a great night. Bye-bye.